if you want to kill the most things, become a vegan.
Yeah, 100%.
If you're thinking about individual life, if you don't think that one life equals one life, if you think that small things aren't as valuable as large things, that's a totally different discussion, and that's a weird discussion. But if you think that all life is sacred, well, what about the lives of the ground nesting birds, fawns?
Yeah.
What about the lives of rodents, insects? All those things are getting demolished.
If you think that animals matter morally and we should factor them into our ethical decision making, the idea behind veganism becomes very hard to oppose from an ethical position, unless, of course, vegans cause more harm, in which case, brilliant, the answer's there right in front of us. And so I think the reason people love this is because it's an answer to a question which historically has been impossible to answer. So now all of a sudden people can go, well, actually, what about the mice and the birds and all the animals who are killed to produce crops who actually result in more harm? It's a funny thing, and I say this towards the beginning of the book as well, which is I almost wish that all these arguments against veganism were true, right? Because how much easier would it be if we were already eating the food that aligned with everything that we want? You know, how much easier would it be if animal farming was sustainable, was more ethical, was healthier? I could, just go, oh, job done, right? We're already there. I can rest on my laurels and sadly think of something else to try to get rid of. But there is this notion, I suppose, where it's easy again to believe in something that tells us what we want to believe, even if that doesn't necessarily fit reality. And the crop deaths one stems from a couple of pieces of misinformation, which was looking specifically at the number of animals being killed to produce crops. But what it overlooks, firstly, is that the vast majority of crops worldwide are fed to farmed animals, right? So if you're looking at crop deaths, more animals are killed in crop deaths for animal feed than human food, because far more animal feed is produced. Then there's land use. There's the species extinction, the biodiversity loss, the deforestation we've discussed, and all of the loss of animals that occurs through the destruction of this land. But then even in grass-fed systems, not only do you have the destruction of that land, the deforestation to create pasture land, but you also have the fact that these animals use far more land than producing crops. And so if we really cared about animals and species and biodiversity, the best answer is a plant-based food system, because it's more efficient, meaning we use less land to produce more food. And it also allows us the ability to rewild huge areas of land, which would increase biodiversity and increase the numbers of wild animals. So the argument falls apart, but it's a very enticing argument, because if you're a meat eater, who wouldn't want to believe that that was more ethical? We all would if I would have done when I used to eat meat. I'd love to have thought, actually, this is the ethical position. So I understand why people parrot it, but it is totally illogical.
It just makes sense to me, because obviously, when you visualize what's going on as a non-vegan, I guess when you visualize, you imagine vegans eating plants, and you imagine, there's a lot of people in the world. What if we all ate plants? It'd be just fields of plants and all these animals dying. I guess for me, it's all in the storytelling, because as we talked about before, when you throw facts and figures at people, they don't get it. And I think this is the importance of framing our conversations and helping people come to the point through good science communication, which is what you do.